It's official! West Ham United have announced the signing of Gianluca Scamacca from Sassuolo in a deal worth up to €42 million. The Italian striker's penned a 5-year contract with the Hammers as well. Big transfer fee, big contract, big player. He's 6'5". But over 1,000 days since West Ham last signed a striker, over 560 days since we sold Sebastian Haller to Ajax, West Ham United have confirmed the signing of striker Gianluca Scamacca. Now, in the last few days, you've heard from myself, you've heard from Gonzo, we've discussed the player, we've discussed the deal, we've even heard from Euro Expert.
This is easily, for me, the best transfer of the summer. This is probably Europe's most exciting striker out of Haaland and Nunes. The Gianluca Scamacca to West Ham, it gets a 10 out of 10.
His words, not mine. Don't hold me to that, but you can hold Euro Expert to that. But anyway, to mix it up a little bit, I reached out to some old faces of Hammers Chat and asked them for their opinion on the signing of Gianluca Scamacca to West Ham United. Let's hear from them, and I'll catch up with you at the end of the video.
Come on, we've signed a striker, people. Get excited. Well, I was going to say get excited. You don't have to. I've been looking at Twitter. There's a lot of excitement about this going around. The thing is with this one is there's definitely reservations in my mind. But as I've thought about it over the last couple of days, when it seemed to become real all of a sudden, actually, those reservations have become positives in my mind. And I've got even more excited than I was. Because I was excited before. You know, we went out, we spent money on a guy, right? Because I thought after Aguerd, that was it. I didn't think we had that much money. And so going and buying Aguerd, sweet. I'm happy. I like him. I see where he fits. I see what David Moyes would like about him. It just all seemed to come together in that. And I was like, sweet. Let's go now and concentrate on getting some Flynn Downsy type, David Moyesy type signings, right? Let's go and do that. Let's get a bunch of them in. Let's build the squad. Let's build the depth. Grand old times. But we've gone and we've spent big again, which is really exciting. We've gone and we've spent big on a striker, which means we actually have another one. And like Mikel Antonio is a striker at this point, but even then you can make arguments about him not being a striker. He is, but like, my God, and he's huge. I do like a big man. That will probably come up again. The thing is, though, with the reservations, right, that have turned into positives is I looked at it when we were originally linked to Scamacca, is how I'm going to pronounce his name incorrectly until I find out how to actually do it properly. And I went, he's not Mikel Antonio. You know what I mean? Because we've been told for years we can't sign a striker because it's so difficult to find one who's like Mikel Antonio, which is a lie anyway, but that's what we've always been fed. And I looked at him and I went, he's nothing like Mikel Antonio. Now, I can't sit here and act like I've seen enough of him to truly judge. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. Maybe he is. Feel free to tell me in the comment section below how much of an idiot I am. But, you know, from everything I have seen, from everything I've read, watching the Euro Expert video on Hammers Chat Patreon, I was like, oh, he's not really Mikel Antonio-y. But as I've been thinking about that over the last couple of days, all of a sudden it's hit me. Do we have a plan B? Have we actually got a plan B now? How many games do we sit here and cry out and scream and be desperate for a plan B? And out of nowhere, we might have a plan B on our hands. Listen, maybe it's too early to tell, but sometimes where we need a different tactic, where it's not working, where we're struggling, and now all of a sudden we have something that is completely different. And not like Jared Bowen is different to Mikel Antonio up front, because they are different. We're talking about an actual ready-made thing, correct position difference, and that's a whole different kettle of fish. And he's big, and as previously stated, I do like big boys. It's happened. We signed him. It's very exciting. I can't wait to see him play. Will he start against City? Probably not, but until then, I'm hyped. Scamacca, let's go!
Finally, 1,000+ days since we sold Sebastian Haller, we have finally found a replacement striker in the form of Gianluca Scamacca, and I am incredibly excited for this signing. I think for the here and now to either partner with Mikel Antonio or to effectively take over as the lead striker in our team, the new number 9, I think he is absolutely perfect. Not just in as much as, yes, he's a natural born striker, yes, he is tall, but he is very, very, very mobile. He is almost just the perfect replacement, yes, for Antonio, but how we look to set up, how we look to play. This is a very sort of diligent signing done by Rob Newman and David Moyes. I think it fits our system perfectly. Whether to be seen or not, that will change, obviously, with the potential signing of Filip Kostic. But you have someone that is going to probably, I tweeted earlier, bring out the best in Jarrod Bowen. I think that's what I'm most excited for, is Bowen making those runs off of Scamacca, his hold-up play, his ability to find strikers sort of beyond and into the final third. Recently, I've been trying to look at maybe sort of more the statistical side of the game, the analytical side, if you want. And a lot of Scamacca's play is done in and around before the box. He doesn't have an assist to his name, unfortunately, last year in Serie A. But if you take a look at the highlights, you take a look at his heat map, and you see where he likes to pick positions up, he is going to be perfect for someone like Jarrod Bowen playing off of him as an inside forward. Not only that, he has an absolute rifle with a right-footed shot. He looks absolutely dominant in the air with his size. And just overall, it's an exciting signing. I did feel similar to, when we signed Sebastian Haller, that it was going to be the big name that we were waiting for, and he was going to take us to glory, and we were going to do all these things with him. But unfortunately, that never really worked out. However, they are different in as much as I think with Scamacca, we have a very mobile, skillful striker, somebody that will get the fans off their feet, and he just looks like a bit of a bastard. And listen, we all love a bastard, and if they come and they're an Italian bastard at that, they're going to go down an absolute treat. But I think for the price, what we paid for him, etc., the 5-year contract, I think this just ticks all the boxes for a fantastic marquee signing, one that other clubs were seriously interested in as well, but we've managed to pip them to it, and we've signed ourselves potentially, if the rumours to be true, the next Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So yeah, I just over the moon, buzzing, and to be fair, it's just a relief that after nearly 3 years that we can finally, actually get to watch somebody try and score goals other than Bowen and Antonio in the side. So yeah, absolutely amazing deal, and I can't wait to see him hopefully in the first week against Manchester City.
Welcome to West Ham United, Gianluca Scamacca. Now, I'll give you my thoughts in just a minute, but before I do that, I would like to know your opinion on two things, really. First of all, there's the player, Gianluca Scamacca, and second of all, there's the deal. I think you can have an opinion on two different things here, and I'm going to summarise my thoughts, but get involved in the comments underneath this video. I'll be back later on, take a look and see what you're all saying. But as for myself, I've only got a limited opinion on Scamacca, the player, because I've not seen enough of him. I've only seen him briefly, not enough to sort of form a strong opinion in regards to him as a player with his ability, and also how he's going to fit in at West Ham United under David Moyes. However, what I have been encouraged by his sort of reputation to some extent. Even I know he's been tipped as Italy's future number 9. That's encouraging. PSG were after him. That's encouraging. So that gives me a little bit of excitement. But what I can form an opinion about is, I guess, the deal, not necessarily the pound notes, the fact that it's 42 million euros, there's a 10% sell-on clause. I'm okay with all that because I don't know enough about the player to suggest if it's good value for money or not. But in regards to the fact that we've gone after him, that we have got a striker at the club now, and also what it means for Michail Antonio, and this is why I get excited, because I do feel that there's been a slight change of transfer strategy from January to the summer now. January, I felt the targets were unrealistic. They were Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez, Rafinha, Calvin Phillips. They were unrealistic. We were going to struggle to get those players in at West Ham. But the players that we're going after this summer, the players that we've got in this summer, they're still ambitious. Gianluca Scamacca is ambitious. Nathan Guerrero is ambitious when you look at their reputations and the other clubs that are interested in them. Their ability as well, on paper, of course. They are ambitious signings, but we've got them. They were much more realistic. We've got them in. The season didn't start for a week and a half now, and unfortunately there is the injury to Aguero. But if all was being well, we've got a £35 million striker and a £25 million centre-back added into that starting 11, ready to go against Manchester City. That is good. That's progress. And like I said, it might just be me, but I do feel there's been a slight change of strategy. Now, obviously, this depends on whether you believe if Armando Broja was the number 1 striker target or not for David Moyes. Because the reports suggest that Rob Newman's the one that's recommended Scamacca to David Moyes and he's given his seal of approval. Is it because of Chelsea? Is it because of Scamacca? Who knows? But it sounds like Moyes has been encouraged to get this deal done by Rob Newman. Good. This is what we need. We need a head of recruitment that has influence over the transfers arriving at West Ham United. And I know some people will suggest that, well, here's a few players that we've taken in at West Ham that Moyes perhaps didn't want. It's not particularly worked out. Alex Kral, Nikola Vlasic, Saïd Benrahma, these will be the examples given. But I can come back to you with Thomas Souček because we know, while we don't know factually, and Nikola Vlasic is a Moyes signing or not, we know factually, Thomas Souček wasn't. Moyes went to Jordan Miles, that guy, the numbers guy at West Ham. Moyes went to him and said, this is what I'm looking for in a centre midfielder. Can you statistically find somebody and recommend him? He recommended Souček. Now I'm sure Moyes would have had a look over the player once he was identified, gave his seal approval. He came straight into the starting 11, and it's been a big success, that transfer. So Souček is proof that Moyes will play players, even though he wasn't necessarily the one that discovered him or chose him for whatever reason. So it looks like Rob Newman's got his fingerprints over this deal, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Now that might come back to bite me on the arse, but that's my opinion anyway. And the other thing that is encouraging, hypothetically for one moment, let's just believe that Amanda Broja was David Moyes' #1 target. We've been negotiating with Chelsea for a couple of weeks, probably longer than that. We're struggling to get anywhere. Moyes has been decisive here, or the club's been decisive, and said, right, well, let's just leave that one and we'll move on to Gianluca Scamacca. Let's get him in, because we're not having another thing where we go after this player that we're just not going to get for whatever reason. We did it with Youssef En-Nesyri. He just didn't want to come. He didn't want to leave Sevilla. We did it with James Tarkowski, remember. He didn't want to come down to London. He didn't want to leave Burnley and come down to London, yet we still tried to pursue him. So we've been quite decisive, and I feel a change of transfer strategy to some extent in order to get Gianluca Scamacca in. Now finally, for Michail Antonio, I think this will benefit him massively. I've been a fan of Antonio playing the striker role. I've defended Antonio playing the striker role. I think Antonio will still play the striker role. In games he will be required. He will be the better option than Scamacca in certain games. Now I know you will say, hang on a minute, you don't know enough about Scamacca. How can you say? Because I know enough about Antonio to know that he's still going to have a big role to play under David Moyes at West Ham United. I'm looking forward to it. The fact that Antonio can now have a rest, that he can now be rotated out when needs to be, that come the hour mark, if he's looking a little bit pooped, he can get taken off for a different striker. This is good for Antonio. I think we will see a much better Michail Antonio next season at West Ham United with the introduction of Gianluca Scamacca. And then while I can't get excited about Scamacca too much because I don't know enough about him, what I can do is get excited about an in-form and fully fit Michail Antonio. That's exciting for me. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, well, actually, let's mix that up. If you like the signing of Gianluca Scamacca, please do drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new to the Hammers Chat, and we'll catch you tomorrow.